Hey guys, I'm stoked. I've got one of my favorite guys back on the show. He did such an amazing job last time we had him on the podcast. I wanted to bring him back. I just caught him. We were both on stage at the same place out in South Carolina a couple weeks ago. And he just blew me away. And I thought, man, I got to get Garrett back on here because he's so good. So Garrett Maroon is with us today. Garrett's a legend and an all-star. He's done so many great things in the industry. But welcome back, Garrett.
Man, I think that about you. And then I wonder why I even got invited to South Carolina, right? Who wanted me to talk? But I will say this, if you ask my kids, they won't think I'm a legend and an all-star, but they will think that because I'm 36, that I must be really tall. And I'm like, look around, kids, that daddy is not tall compared to everybody else. So, hey, in my family, I'm tall. So I'll take that. Maybe not a legend, but I'm tall compared to them.
You take the win,
I'll take it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I haven't been described as tall very often, so I'll take it.
So first of all, I want to do a little bit of groundwork because you laid out so many great ideas at the program I just watched you, and I've seen you and I've talked to you and we've had you on the podcast, but I was taking a bunch of notes. One of the things that really resonated with me when you were talking is you're talking about how many relationships people have in the world today. And I wrote the numbers down and I lost the notes. So I want you to tell us again, what are those numbers today? Because it's a really interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I would say that the two most interesting things were when I talk about building a referral business, right? I've built 100% by word of mouth, is the average person knows 256 people. So I think there's two numbers you're talking about. I'll give you both. Average person knows 256 people. So because I have a database of a little less than 300, but it closed 69 deals last year. And when people ask me how, well, I say, well, 300 people know then 75,000 people. And according to NAR, I've got a 91% chance to convert one of those 75,000 because it's a referral. I'll take that math equation all day over anything else, right? So I think when we are intentional, or when I'm coaching somebody, we go small, and that's how we actually go big, because we're actually influencing those 300 people well, and they're out there, they know people. Now, they know people. Are they cared for, right? Are they in deep relationship? The other number that's sad but fascinating is in 2005, they did a survey of 10,000 people. The average person said they had 6.2 close relationships. Surveyed that same group in 2015, 10 years later, the average person said they had 2.1 close relationships. I don't know if they're going to do it again in 2025, right? 10 years later, but I imagine that number certainly hasn't gone up with COVID. And interestingly, actually, as we speak, Jim, I think it was 3 days ago, the Surgeon General came out and said, we have I think he called it an epidemic of loneliness is what's going on in our country. And he equated it to, it was something like, it's as dangerous as obesity. It's as dangerous as something like smoking 15 cigarettes a day was what he said, is this epidemic of loneliness. So yeah, we've got this culture that is over communicated with, but under cared for, and desperate for real human relationships, someone to care about them. And in my opinion, as an agent, our job is just to be that person and do that well. That's our goal. The byproduct of that is, you better believe they're going to tell all their friends, because you're one of their closest friends now. Right. So were those the numbers that you're talking about? I think those are like the two interesting numbers. Yeah.
Really fascinating. I think what people really want is they crave it. You don't even realize how much you miss it until you have somebody that really pays attention to you and listens to you, because we just don't have it as much anymore. It's such a classic way you talked about in your program you did about doing, I think it was, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you did $900,000 worth of business GCI wise. You spent $10,000 in marketing.
That's right.
And people are like, holy smokes, how do you do that? Talk to us about, and I want to get into another topic other than sphere of influence, because that's your specialization. We talked about it last time, but I do want to talk about other things, but this is a really interesting thing.
Sure.
How did you do that? What was the $10,000 spent on, and how does that look?
Yeah, man. So, the main point of that when I share that is to say, we misunderstand what are the needs of the people we're trying to serve, right? In our database, we think that we need to spend money, be flashy, do all this stuff. When what we just talked about, the reality is they're alone, right? They'll spend money if they want flashy things, but they can't go buy relationships for them. So what is the most impactful but cheapest thing to do? It's to show up. And so for us, our entire strategy is around just what I call systematic relationships. How do I just consistently show up in your life and care for you? So how did we only spend $10,000? We do really basic postcard mailers every month, right? Super cheap. I send an email every month from my personal email. Doesn't cost anything, right? Once a quarter, we send video text messages from my phone. Doesn't cost me anything, right? It's just my time. We write handwritten notes. Very little cost, right? Other than the stamps. That's the second month of the quarter. And we do Popeye gifts, but they got to cost less than $2. That's my rule. And we do it. I do it to 25 people in my database. Why does it cost less than $2? Again, the value is that you showed up, not in the gift. The value is that you showed up, because that's not what's happening to people. And then we do a client event every third month. But the client events I've learned throughout my 9 years is I used to do them a lot bigger. And then I just started asking myself the question, I wonder what would happen if I spent less money. Would it still work? I mean, genuinely. Right. And it did. And it worked really well. So all I've been doing is, how do I elevate the experience they're going to have, but not spend any money doing it? So for example, one of the cheapest but most effective parties we do is I get my photographer friend to come and do free family portraits for everybody. We rent out a local park pavilion for $100. It's got animals. We get donuts and coffee. They get free photos. They get donuts and coffee. They get to hang out. It's like $400, and 150 people show up. Right. Wow. And amazing. And they love it. And it's so fun and it's enjoyable, and it doesn't cost me money. Like, it's very inexpensive. Right. So I think we believe as agents, we tend to throw money at a problem. Mm-hmm. And because we're not doing, in my opinion, we're not doing the deeper work to understand, what do they really need from us? Not more stuff. How much stuff do we, my wife and I, getting our attic renovated so it can become an office for me. When we went through our attic, we're like, well, how do we have so much stuff, right? Everybody has too much stuff, but they don't have too many relationships. They actually have too few. That's where we need to show up.
Well, I think you touched on a couple of things. One is this tendency, of people trying to go wider rather than more vertical on the relationships. So going vertical and deeper, I think is really smart. But also this idea of the experience. And somebody told me really recently, and I thought really resonated with me, is that people can never forget an experience. You'll forget a postcard, you'll forget this, that, or the other, somebody gives you, but you can't forget an experience. Like, nobody's going to forget all year long that, hey, I got my family portrait done and I had donuts and coffee, my kids played. And I just think that's such a beautiful, smart way to market. So I think that's part of, one of your keys to success is just being smart about it. So let's talk about, you have a relatively small database, under 300 people, 69 transactions. And it's not like this is a fluke. You've been doing this year after year after year after year. And now you scaled out of production, which I know you still touch it and you're still involved, but I think this is like the, mecca. This is the dream for everybody. Like, how can I eventually not have to be grinding the way I'm grinding? What's that path look like for you? How have you done it? What would you suggest to people that want to follow your model over time, over 9 years? It's not been overnight. It's been over 9 years.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, so what was interesting to me is, I fell into that idea that in order to scale out, you got to have a big business. You got to have lots of people. You've got to have lots of admin. You've got to have lots of systems and moving parts and whatever. And so I tried to do that. Honestly, I had a relatively big team. I mean, I think I had eight or nine people on it total. And I was like, okay, this is how you got to do it. And then I don't know why it took me so long, because I'm not that smart, but I finally stopped and said, do I even want a big team? And the answer was no. And then I said, okay, well, but I do want to get out of production. So then I went around to my friends who had big teams, and I found out they're not even more profitable than me. And if they are, it's not even by that much. Some of them were less profitable than me. Like, wait a minute. So all of this stuff that you're doing and all of the complexity doesn't even make you more money. Okay, I don't want to do this. I didn't want to do this anyways. I shouldn't have done it. And so I scaled back to one agent and one admin. And then I got to that point and I said, okay, but now there's no option for me. I want to be out of production. I just now have to figure out how to do that. And so the way for me was, I took my, since my second year in the business, I've done at least 50 deals a year. So I took them and I said, can I go get an A+ talent agent for 50 transactions a year that she's going to make 200 grand a year, let's say, or however much it was off of these deals. Can I go get an A+ talent? And if I get an A+ talent and I give them an A+ opportunity, can they run this business essentially for me? Right. And I'll pair them up with an A+ admin, A+ transaction coordinator. And the answer was yes. Because my flaw, and I see this all the time in people I'm coaching or just people that ask, the flaw I think in this industry is they'll say, how did you get out of production? And my first question to them is, well, what offering are you making to the agent? Right? What are you giving them? What opportunity are you giving them? Well, I'm still the main agent, but I want them to come on and I can help them scale. Okay. Well, an A+ agent is not going to take a B opportunity or C+ opportunity. Right. So why do you keep, I've so many times, my top agent is Jesse, my agent is Jesse. And they'll say, well, how do I find a Jesse? Right. And I say, you got to get out of the way, because a Jesse wants a great opportunity. You still being the main dog, the rainmaker, is not a great opportunity for someone who is that skilled and that talented. Right. And so that was the biggest aha moment for me, Jim, was recognizing if I don't have an A+ opportunity, I'm not going to get an A+ person. And I needed that to be able to say, okay, now that I've got this business coming in, and that's relatively on autopilot with the touches and stuff, doesn't take me very long. And I can go get one person who can generate his own business, and I can hand all my business to, and I trust him. And he wants the opportunity. He's hungry for it. He quite honestly is a better agent than I am. Full transparency, absolutely a better agent than I am. He will take it and he will run with it. And I don't have to worry about anything else. So paired him up with a great admin and stepped out of the way. And I think, I heard it said that you have two accounts. You have a bank account and an ego account. You can only put it into one, right? And I think most agents are putting whatever they're getting into an ego account. They might say that they aren't, but why do you always have to be the main agent? Why do you always, and if you want to, that's okay, but just accept that you're never probably going to step out of production because you're only getting C, B level talent. If you want A+, you got to give them an A+ opportunity. And for me, that was a big aha. And it just came from, I wouldn't accept not being out of production as an answer. My answer was, I've got little kids. I want to spend more time with them. I have no choice. I will get out. And then I had to go solve whatever that problem was. And that's what I came up with.
I love it. Now, and all of that just absolutely brilliant. But let me back up for a second on the, you reminded me of a Richard Branson quote. You asked him, how does he build so many amazing companies? And he said, you got to do three things. One, hire amazing people. You hired your Jesse. You have to give them you got to hire world-class people. You got to have world-class systems behind those people. And then you got to get out of their way and let them do their job, not do show fight.
Yeah.
Interesting. You hit all three of those things perfectly. But when you're talking about finding that Jesse, and maybe this is not the appropriate place to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I know people are going to be thinking it is, are you ever afraid he's going to leave? And if he leaves, you got to, what are you going to do? I mean, now you're kind of stuck, right? Do you worry about that?
Absolutely. 100%. Oh, 100%. It takes, I've learned to slow down in the hiring process, right? And figuring out somebody's motivations. And, I'll say, when I brought him on, I was looking for someone who wanted to join a team and I thought was really, really talented, but never was the personality that said, no, I really want to run my own thing. He doesn't care. Like he's a mixture of, he's really hungry, but he doesn't care that it's not his name on it. Right. Or he's not the main, it's not his business per se. Excuse me. And so, but I know he'll leave at some point. He just will. And that's okay. And so two things, and I'll tell you what I did, but my main thought had been for a long time until a new opportunity presented itself for me. But my main thought had been for however long I can run this, I'm going to run this play, right, with Jesse. And then, excuse me, when Jesse leaves, because he would leave at some point, right? When Jesse leaves, obviously I'd love for him to stay, but I'm going to go take my other 50 plus deals a year, take that A+ opportunity and go find another A+ person, right? I'm not trying to solve a really difficult equation. I have one really great offer and I can go find one really great agent who wants it, because the great agents don't care as much about splits as they do about opportunity. And so if I went to someone to say, I can make sure that you make at least 200 grand a year plus all your business, great, I'm done. I'm there, right? Excuse me. So to me, once I kind of figured out the right math equation for that, yes, I don't want him to leave, but at the end of the day, I can take that same opportunity and go find another A+ person. So yeah, I'd have to jump back in for a little bit, but at the end of the day, if you have the right opportunity, you'll attract the right kind of person.
Which I love, because you're not living in fear. You're just living in opportunity, which is a whole different mindset. It is absolutely brilliant. So with this, in terms of branding, your name on everything still, his name on it too, or just you?
Yep. So the name is the Maroon Group. So my last name. And ironically, he actually has taken that on and he loves that brand. I've said we could change the name. He's like, no, I like the brand. It's been around for a long time, X, Y, and Z. And so, we're 100% referral. So is he. So he is the brand to his people. I am the brand to my people. And so from a branding perspective, not that I'm in any way a brand expert, but from a branding perspective, it is, what do your people think of you? And in a fully relational business, they don't care that my team name is the Maroon Group or it isn't. They just care about me and they care about him. And so for us, thankfully, in that scenario, it didn't really matter. Doesn't affect him at all, but he does like the brand.
And then on the terms of, because I know you have something I want to touch on it again in a minute, but you got something called your Perfect 36, which is absolutely brilliant. And I want the audience to hear it again. But with your Perfect 36, you've got some very, very specific things you're doing. You're doing a video text once a quarter. You're doing handwritten notes or Popeyes once a quarter. Now, is that you doing that, or is that him doing that, or is it both you doing it?
Yeah, great question. So the only thing that I leverage out is the mailers and the emails every month. Our admin does that. Jesse and I both do the video text, the notes, the Popeyes, and then we put on the client event, right? Of course, because again, it's to me, it is the systematic relationships is, how do I show up? Well, it's not effective because I get the question a lot. Well, can I have somebody else call them? Well, you can, but are you building a relationship that way? Right. And the easiest way to just backtrack, again, I think we just miss it because we're looking for some silver bullet, is if you have a friend, how do you want them to show up? Would you want your friend, would you want someone to call and say, I'm calling on behalf of your friend, and he wants to see how you're doing? Like, does he? I don't think he actually cares, right? Is he too busy for that? You can't sub out, thinking about contracts, you can't sub that out, right? I can't hire an assistant to take my wife on a date. I need to show up, right? And so those are the things that we do. The actual personal relational touches, that's us. The beauty of it is, again, and I did 300 video texts last month. That's our video text for April. It took me 2.5 hours. It's really quick. It's not about real estate. It's short and sweet, right? Yeah. Hey, Jim, I hope your April is going really well. You had a great first quarter of the year. If I can serve you in any way, let me know. Hope to see you at our next client event. Super simple. Boom, gone, done. You got to show up. That's all this is just show up authentically and care about them. And so we actually do those touches.
But one of the things I always preach to my own team leaders is, you can't grow your capacity until you give up control, right? And so you got to give up some control. And this is all about what you're doing, is you're giving up control to Jesse to run the plays and get these things across the finish line. Was that hard for you to do? Was it easy for you to do? I mean, it was emotionally.
No. So, I mean, thankfully for me, like, I never cared about being the guy. I didn't go to the award ceremonies or anything like that. It didn't matter. I didn't care what rank I was, as long as I was providing for my family, right? Like, that just never mattered to me. And so what I got excited about, and why I got into the industry and started building a team, not why I got in the industry, I didn't know what I was doing when that happened, but why I started building a team was I saw what an impact it made on my life. And I wanted to provide that for other people. So what excites me was Jesse went from 30 grand a year working 2 jobs to the 2 years later, he made $250,000 working 1 job and spending more time with his family. That excites me. And so I was absolutely willing to say, I will 100% step away, because I'm ultimately walking into where I want to walk into, and he's walking into where he wants to walk into. And this is awesome. I don't care that it's not about me anymore. It shouldn't have been about me anyways, right? And And from a perspective of an agent who's like, how do I get out of production? Well, if you built your whole business to make it about you, that's going to be really hard, right? Yeah. It can't be about that. At the end of the day, recognize that clients aren't committed to you. They're committed to the standard of service you represent. And so if you can find someone who's similar to that, and when I get referrals come in, and of course they come to me directly and, hey, we really want to work with you. Awesome. This is great. Hey, this is how it works, right? Jesse is the day-to-day, takes care of all that. He's going to be your main point of contact, and I'll be watching and I'll be talking to you guys every few weeks to see how you're doing. Right. And they're like, great. And as long as Jesse isn't terrible, and he isn't, they won't care. Right. And so it is just, you got to have a very clear path and understanding of what's the purpose of me trying to step out of production. What am I stepping into? For me, it's other ventures, and it's taking Fridays off to hang out with my, we got a 6'4" and 2-year-old and one on the way in 2 weeks. Like, wow. I want to spend time with them. I'm not going to miss their little years. So was it hard to pass off? No, because I knew what I was stepping into. I was letting go into something greater. And so having that understanding, instead of just saying, I just want to be the guy that stepped out of production, that's not why. I knew that I got to walk into something greater, and that is what motivated me. And honestly, it made it really easy to do that.
How much are you involved today on a weekly basis? Are you involved an hour a day, 2 hours a day? What is your involvement today?
Very little. So I'm about 2 hours a week now. Yep. So actually about a week ago, as we record this, I actually merged my team in with a friend of mine, a buddy of mine. And the benefit to me was he now takes over all of the day-to-day operation. I have none of it anymore. I only meet with Jesse and I lead generate. And so that takes 2 hours a week, and literally I'll be as profitable as I was. And so I'm super fortunate for that. Yep. And so, it just doesn't take, but even when I was running it, Jim, I was spending about 5 hours a week. I mean, if you have a phenomenal agent with a phenomenal opportunity, like you said, get out of their way. Yeah. He would tell me, we would do a daily call, and what's going on with the contracts, whatever. And I would ask questions. And he eventually said, dude, you don't need to be on here. You're just slowing us down. Like, all right, great. I'll step out. And he's like, this is perfect. That's really what I wanted. That's what he wanted. So if you've got a really talented person, they want to run the show. They're going to want to push the ball forward. If they don't, and they expect you to show up all the time, you probably have the wrong person.
Let me ask you this. So with your, and you touched on it, but I want to just, because I think I know how top agents think that are listening to this. And I'm going to say, somebody calls me, Garrett, and they say, hey, Garrett, we're ready to list our house. You've been so good to us over the years. We want you to come out and check it out. What do you say next to transfer them to Jesse in a seamless way?
No doubt. Yeah. So my response would be, and they typically would text me, but my response would be, hey, that's awesome. We would love to serve you. Hey, I want to let you know my team has been growing, and I've got a phenomenal listing specialist. He handles all the day-to-day, right? We've got a lot going on. You guys know that I've got a lot of kids, right? Because we have a relationship. And so he handles all the day-to-day, him and our admin. They're phenomenal, right? So I'm going to introduce you to him. He's going to come out, take a look. He'll run you through that process. Of course, I'll be involved in. Jesse and I talk all the time, but he's going to take care of you for that. Great. Sounds good. Right. I've only once so I've been doing this with Jesse for about 2.5 years. Only once has someone said, well, if it's not you, I want to work with somebody else. And I said, hey, I respect that. This is how I run my team. So if you want to work with somebody else, I totally understand. And they did. Okay. Once out of 165 deals in 2 years, I'll take it. Totally. Okay. They don't get to choose my system. So, I think there's a lot of fear. Again, getting over the idea of they don't want to work with you. They want to work with what you represent. If you can provide them someone who's going to give them the same level of experience and, same level of experience and has the same skill set, they're going to be perfectly fine. It's great. They're not upset. And they know, I use this all the time. I'll say one last thing real quick, Jim, but I always say, when you go to the doctor, who do you see, right? Well, you see the person at the front desk, you see the nurse, and the doctor comes in for like 10 minutes, right? But you're there for 2 hours. Well, what do you say when someone says, do you have a great doctor? Oh, I love my doctor, Dr. McCormick for me. I love Dr. McCormick. Well, I barely saw Dr. McCormick. Right. Well, but he was the main guy. He's who I showed up for, but everybody else did the work. It's the same concept for us. We're already wired that way. If we're afraid to pass on the deals, we're not understanding that they're still going to attribute their experience with you, the lead agent, whoever passes it off. As long as your team does a good job, they're still going to say, man, Garrett did an awesome job. And they come back time and time again. They keep giving me referrals. Hey, Garrett and his team are awesome, right? I didn't even do anything. So I think we've got to understand, again, don't miss the reality of how humans actually think and how they operate.
I love it. So powerful. Now, before I let you off this call, I gotta have you run the gamut for my team. Top 36. I mean, you're perfect 36, I should call it. Run it. I know you can do it fast, and just kind of tell everybody what that means and what it's done for your business.
Yep, no doubt, man. So 36 touches in a year, 12 mailers goes out once a month, 12 emails goes out once a month. Then it's broken in. So those are very low value. Just get them out. Then it's broken down into a quarterly system. So 4 quarters in a year, right? The first month of the quarter, the personal touch we'll make is a video text message. Very simple. I gave an example of it earlier. The second month in the quarter is a handwritten note to everyone in your database, except 25 people who you will drop off a gift at their house. The note is something simple as well. I just want to let you know, happy Mother's Day, depending on the situation, but happy Mother's Day, how much I respect you as a mom. And if my wife and I can serve or care for you guys in any way, let me know. Right? Something simple. Popeye gift, Mother's Day flowers is what we do. Drop off Mother's Day flowers, take a picture. Hey, I just want to say happy Mother's Day. Dropped you off a little something. And then the third month is a client event, and it's just rotating. It's just so simple, because I wanted to make sure that we showed up in the right way over and over and over again. And so what has it done for me? My first 6 months when I started, I only did 14 deals. Then my first full year, 27. And then my second full year, 50. And I've done not fewer than 50 every year since. And with a small database, because it's just the consistency of relationship. That's what people need. That's what they want. And it's just really powerful. It's really effective. We've got, if you don't mind me sharing, we've got an e-course that we did that walks through that. So it's faithfulagent.com/course. And if they use the code podcast, they get $100 off, but it's literally gives you everything and comes with a monthly touch plan. So you'll also receive, this is exactly what I'm doing. This is the mailer we're sending out. Here it is. Go send it. Here's the email, and here's the personal touch and exactly what to say. We wanted to make it super simple for agents, because this will change their business if they actually are consistent on this and do this well.
Love it. Let me just dive into a little bit more.
Please.
When and I know the 2 touch points a month, email, newsletter, or just email, I guess just to say, and a postcard, it's kind of a throwaway, just get you in front of them every month. But you said that the video text took you 2.5 hours. So I want agents to really hear that 2.5 hours was your total amount of time investment for that month, that first month of the quarter.
That's right.
Then moving on to the next month. So let's just break it down. So April, you've already done the videos. May, you're going to
video text. Yep.
You're doing the handwritten notes, except for 25. Now, the question mark on the handwritten notes, are you physically handwriting those yourself? Or do you have a robot doing it? Or you're just, I have terrible handwriting. I could never do it myself.
No, yeah. Nope. So physical handwriting and then physically addressing them. That's super important. Yeah. But yeah, there are, I probably will move pretty soon to a robot. That there's one company called Postalgia that I found that can actually mimic your actual handwriting. So I've gotten an example from them, and it looks like my handwriting. It's crazy. And the other ones don't. And so I've written too many notes at this point, so people would know it's not me. But if you haven't, and you're an agent that hasn't, then go ahead and use them. I think that's okay. Yeah, I think that's absolutely okay, as long as it looks somewhat legitimate. But I love the idea though of actually sitting there and thinking about your people as you're writing it, because I think it just gives you a leg up too.
And then last month, which you'll do in June, will be the client event. So with the client event, really quickly, what is your process for inviting people? And are you inviting your entire database? Are you calling, texting, and sending a note? Or are you doing all three? What are you doing?
Yep, great question. So 2 weeks before the event. So let's say the event is 2 Saturdays from now. Yeah. Okay. The Monday that is 2 weeks out. So let's say the event is on the 14th. I don't know how to do that math. The 13th, whatever. On the 1st, that Monday, 2 weeks out, we send an evite to everyone in the database. Evite. It goes out there to everybody. The next day, that following Tuesday, we send a personal text to everyone. Hey, I just want to make sure you saw the invitation to our upcoming client event. It's going to be awesome. I would love for you to be there. Boom. Here's the link again.
Let me ask you one question about that real quick.
Yeah, please.
Are you doing that physically, or is that easy texting and hitting your whole database at the same time?
Yeah, good question. Nope, individual. So I use their name. I want to use somebody's name as much as I can. So yeah, hey Jim, just want to make sure, but I'm just copying and pasting the text, right? Just changing the name. So that's on Tuesdays. On Tuesday. On Friday, the week before, I'm doing another follow-up text to everybody who hasn't replied. Okay, so Monday, Evite, Tuesday, text, Friday, follow-up text. The Monday of the event, right? So the Monday, the week of the event, I'm going to send out another text message to everyone who hasn't replied yet. Then on Thursday, I'll send out an Evite message to everyone who hasn't replied yet. And then on Friday, we'll send a text message to everyone who's coming, say, we're super excited. Here's the final details. And that's it. So like, because the point is, the point of the party is not the attendance, it's the invitation, right? I get to invite them 6 times to an event because I just care about them. That's powerful. So we do have a cadence, and that's our rhythm going through it. Sometimes, Jim, we will throw in a postcard that has a QR code that says, guess what we're doing this month? It's this event, scan here and sign up, just to get them excited, to just show, I'm an advocate. I do the events solely because I tell them I care about them. I want to prove it. And I prove it by over and over and over, just doing things for them.
Yeah, I love it. I want you to leave everybody with this kind of message, if you would. So you're obviously a gregarious guy. You're outgoing. You have an ability to talk to people. It's obvious. What about somebody that's a little bit shy? I mean, what would you recommend to them? I mean, what is your thoughts on that?
Great question. Same exact thing. I'm coaching a guy right now who is far, more introverted than I am. Yeah. And he actually had such a good question to him because he had the same question. And I said, look, here's the goal of how this works. When you work by relationship, when you have these relationships, you develop these things. Not everyone's going to want to work with me. I might annoy them. I probably do annoy people, right? I'm too outgoing. I'm too loud, too energetic, whatever it is. Your people are not going to want to work with me, and my people would not want to work with you, right? There are so many people out there that will connect with you that I never could. And so I would say that's not in any way. It's actually, in my opinion, the people I've coached, it's easier for someone who is more introverted to do this well, because the people like me that are highly extroverted, high eyes on the disc profile, we think everyone's our friend. And we're so out there, we're not actually systematic in building relationships. We're like, oh, I talked to them once and now we're best friends. Well, that's not actually true, right? So anybody can build a coalition of people around them that are like them. I said it in South Carolina. I'll say it again. People refer you because they like you and they are like you, right? So the people that are like me are not the people like this guy I'm coaching. Totally fine. Do the same thing. Find your people, care for them well, do it consistently. It's going to work great.
Love it. Friends refer friends. You got to just find your tribe. So good. Yep. You are just an incredible guy. I just love listening to you. I can listen to you, brother. Today. And if you want to reach out and get Garrett's program, you want to take his course, tell them one more time where they can find that.
Yep. faithfulagent.com/course and use promo code podcast.
Love it. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable, buddy.
Thanks, brother. Always love it.